So, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. We are very happy, Valentin and I, Guillaume, to be here for the Kosovo Architecture Festival. As Ibai said, we are also starting a workshop today, and it's a kind of accomplishment, somehow we can say, of many years of travel between Switzerland and Kosovo. And we are really happy now to work with students here and to go a bit more further in this study. It's the beginning of a new era in this research that lasts for 6 years now, I guess. So now we are starting this workshop here, and we will do the same in Switzerland in the forthcoming year with Swiss students. So yeah, we will anyway keep you informed, because we are coming at least once a year to Pristina, and it's always, we spend always a very nice time. It's a joy to be here. So tonight we'll finish this lecture series with something a bit maybe for sure less urban, maybe somehow more Swiss, we can say. And we decided not to talk about the architecture we are doing, but other project that we are developing for almost 10 years. So we started the office in 2010 with Valentin, and now it's growing somehow. We are about 15 people and working on different projects and different scales, from the small house or the small hut in the mountains to office building and industrial building. But for the last 10 years, we always try to keep a practice between two kind of really concrete thing of architecture and something which is more abstract, direct, short, and that can fuel this more long-term practice of architecture. And for some years we are working really more closely with geographical phenomenon, natural phenomenon, we can say. And so we go through 5 projects that are very small, between some small scenographies and art residencies, where from the context and from our analysis and observation of what is happening around us, we develop very small projects. So we'll go through, I will present the 2 first projects, and Valentin will finish with the 3 last ones. So we go in the desert, then on a Swiss glacier, and then in Geneva with 1 project, and then again in the mountains, and again back to Geneva. So between some kind of urban situation, we will see why, and very wild or inhabited situations. So yeah, so this is the first project. It's an art residency in the Mojave Desert, so it's in California, and we decided to work on this question of the absence and presence of water in the Californian desert, which is a very big issue. So it's in the south of Las Vegas. You see the mouse is perfect, we need it. So this is Las Vegas, and we were somewhere here close to Barstow. So you have Los Angeles here, a mountain chain, and then this desert. And this desert is kind of dried from the winds that are coming here and are coming drier. So it looks a bit like this from space. So we were somewhere here, I guess. And the funny thing, so this is the lake. This is a dry lake where we stayed here 2 weeks on this lake in a small hut with almost no water. But the funny thing is that if you dig 5 meters, there is plenty of water, but it's 20 times more salty than the Mediterranean Sea. So you cannot do anything with this water. Some people try to desalinate it, but I mean it blocks the system because it's just too salty. So there is somehow a lot of water, but you cannot use it for living purpose. And at the same time, with this first observation that some days there are a lot of clouds that are coming from the evaporation actually of this desert and this water mass that is behind us. And there are extremely strong forces, natural forces, that make these thermodynamical exchanges, and we were somehow fascinated. From the beginning, we didn't know really what we were going to do in this desert, so let's stay there 2 weeks and experiment the absence of water, and then step by step we were observing this, knowing that it was plenty of water under us and then plenty of water in the sky. And so we did some research, and actually we started to measure this humidity in the air, and we realized that even when the sky was very clear, there was water in the air, which was not an evidence for us at the beginning, but I mean it became kind of scientific fact. There is always water particles in the air. Then we say, okay, let's observe this desert more precisely, or this area, and look for this invisible water that is somehow hiding in the air. So we put posts on this grid. It's a grid around the place we were staying, which was around the railway road, the Trans-American Railway Road and the Road 66. And we put some posts and did some measurements. So it took us 3 days to put the posts with a temperature about 45 degrees. It was kind of a very difficult thing, kind of both performative. But then we could start doing measurements. So every 2 hours we were doing measurements on every post to see, to measure the level of humidity and the temperature. And what becomes kind of clear was that if at some point you decrease the temperature of the air, you will get water. Then, so if you put a very cold thing there, it will the water will start to condensate around it. Then we said, okay, then we have to find a place where this water is more accessible. So which means a place where we need least energy to get this water. So we did this cartography. So this is the place you saw before. And so here it's at every hour you see one measure. So it's, I don't know at what time it is, this one, but you know the blue is about 20 degrees and here it's 24. And then here you have the relative humidity, and then when you combine these two measurements, you get a dew point. And the dew point is the temperature where you will get water somehow. And so here you see that at a temperature of 6 degrees here, water will start to condensate. So we played this game like every hour, we did these calculations, with the aim to say, okay, maybe we will find a kind of invisible source of water, which is hidden somewhere in the air of the desert. And then at the same time, we said, okay, how we get this cold points? So we find a very simple system where you put energy in a steel body, and then with a chemical reaction, it gets colder. It's used in very high demanding energy refrigerators. But we kind of hacked the system. We built this small box, which is an insulated box where you can, with a small fan, bring desert air inside and then get water condensate around the steel plate. So then we went in the place we defined with this cartography. So I don't remember exactly where it is called this point. But it should, yeah, I think it's this one, which was about 5 degrees. So then we went to this place the moment we defined. And then, very simply, it was animated with these small solar panels. We got, after 6 hours, on the 19th of September, some drops of water at this location. So, yeah, it was the first kind of small funny project we did in the desert. This is the butter we brought home. Then a year after, we said, okay, let's go another residency in another extreme environment, which was kind of the opposite. It's on the Aletsch Glacier. It's the largest glacier in Europe. And there it was more the question of discovering some dynamics of the landscape, which are very, very strong. I mean, the strongest we experienced, because we haven't been to a volcano yet. And also microclimatic interactions. So this is a map of the glacier. You will see it better here. So it's the Rhone Valley. So it's in the south of Switzerland somehow. And you have this glacier here. So the largest glacier in Europe. This Tongue is about 22 kilometers now. It's decreasing for about 300 meters every year, because it's melting very quickly. But still, I mean, there is a lot of water, of ice, so it's an average of 900 meters of ice, which makes it a very big ice construction, and it has a lot of impact, of course, on the geology, but also on the climate around it. We'll see later. So then we had to go there on foot, so we couldn't bring any material. I mean, the only things we brought, it was really small, lightweight textiles and some carbon fibers, and also a weather station. So we walked this about 30 kilometers on the glacier, and we stayed also about 2 weeks on top of it. So yeah, we started to discover this place, and it was kind of very frightening for architects, because you are used to work on a very stable ground, and then suddenly you are in a very fragile environment where pieces of ice are breaking down all afternoon long, because it's kind of melting. So you have stones falling, it's very dynamic, you have a lot of water running along the glacier. And then we started to say, okay, how can we interact with that? It was kind of very difficult, so we had a small recorder, so we were pouring hydrophones in the ice cap to listen to the dynamics of the ice, which was kind of also very strange, because you hear this thermodynamics in full action with a lot of noises coming from air drops, like breaking and coming up in the ice, but also ice movement, like mechanical movement. You find this kind of really interesting caves. We did a lot of pictures, because the colors are changing all the time. Unfortunately, we couldn't put the GIFs on the presentation, but it's strange. It's kind of very interesting color environments. We studied this also, and this is the kind of landscape you get around the glacier. I will not go in details into that. It's more kind of geological, but also we were using our tools as architects also to make surveys of this surface changing every day. So this is photogrammatical surveys we did. So it's an assembly of about 1,000 photographies. So it's one hole, it's about 10 meters wide, and the water on the surface of the glacier is falling into that and going into the depths of the glacier. This is other kind of structure you find in the glacier. This is also faults. And then we say, okay, now we have to try to see what's happening in the climate around. So we put this weather station that we are always bringing with us somewhere, everywhere, and we put it in the middle of the glacier for 25 hours, and then on the side of the glacier, it's on the side, then here it's in the middle, to make some surveys of the behavior of the winds on the glacier. I don't know if you see it well, but it's the kind of survey we did. So take the direction of the winds but also the velocity of the wind. And you see that, I mean, you have during the daytime, in the afternoon, you have something that is very quiet and kind of trouble in terms of direction, but during the night, something that is kind of strong and constant, and it looking toward north, which means towards the top of the glacier. So I will explain you now how it works. So this is the ice structure. And then what's happening is that you have like normal wind in these mountains that are just going up during the day, because the top of the mountain is hotter than the valley. But when you have so much ice, like 900 meters of ice, then you have a microclimate about 20 meters high, where the winds are inverted because of the cold of the ice, and winds are going down. So then we start to experiment with what we had, so very small structure that we were putting in the air and looking at these phenomena. So this is the largest we did. It's 30 meters of very light plastic that was floating and showing this katabatic wind. Now I will give the microphone to Valentin for the next project, which is in more European context.
Hello everyone. I'm sure you are asking yourself, how is it possible to turn those crazy Duchamp-like ideas into architecture? I'm sorry, you will not have the answer now. You will just see more crazy projects that are coming out of the office. Acacia Building was a project where water management and infrastructure were very important to us. So it's at least turning a little bit toward architecture, even though if it's not totally architecture. This is a building in the first periphery of Geneva. Geneva, one of the main cities in Switzerland. I guess you all heard about it. This project in this place was the idea or the need by an art gallery or an art infrastructure to interact with the resources and the different possibilities offered by the city and all the infrastructure. Our proposal as architect was to transform everything that goes around all around the rain and the water that is around us again, and try to hack it and use it as much as possible. It may sound a little bit silly to transform this position of architects that could just turn the tap on or off to have the water in the building to a strange installation, but it's helping us also to improve our relation to our environment and to the different things that are around us. Of course, when you imagine a water system that looks like that and not like a water system that we are used to draw at school, it brings a totally different relation to the water and to the infrastructure. So, of course, having this little building, we had to know a lot about the water and the precise methodology on site. So we are in Geneva, we have a short lapse of time. You see it's all November 2015, so we had an idea of what would be or what should be the average rain quantity on the building. So we had dimensions all our installation on this idea. This is the basic installation. We had rain coming on the roof having some 250 liter water stock that were helping us. The first 2 bags were sending the water toward, I will use the mouse, toward this area that was helping us filtering water and having drinkable water at the end. Whereas the 2 other bags were supposed to bring water to leisurely system of water, which again we are not used to build in a building as architects. These are the kind of artifacts that we created. This first system. This first system is the first water basin, whereas this one is the arrival of the drinkable water into a jar. Again, some of the more designish things that we created that are game or elements that allow us to show water and to interact with water a little bit like a French engineer were doing in some gardens in the old time of French architecture. We were playing with water and trying to have this element present and being a part of our total leisure system. A pleasure for everybody, I hear. On the next slide, here is a picture of the exterior of the building showing all the bags. The day of the opening, you see all the bags are not filled at all, and we were expecting to have 1,000 liters of water. We had nothing more than that. So all the system had to be reimagined all the way along. Here again, one of the images of the water system we had to invent. And here is the interior of the art space that we created. The water was coming out the building through all these pipes and all these systems. So it's a really like hacking a building, an existing building, hacking it and trying to transform it, and the relation we have with these elements that is so basic for architects. And we are transforming it into a leisure system, drinkable water. And here on the back you may see a little bit by the heating system, the way we had to heat the water to make it more comfortable. My daughter was 1.5 at the time and she really enjoyed the black one, the black basin. That one. Up, with water dripping in. I go to the next Du Champion project. Again, a project that is mixing infrastructure, art and geographies. We had been invited to create an art installation in that building in the Rhone Valley. You have some mountain here on the side and you have a little water Einfluss, so to say. It's very, very tiny river going through. Here is the space as seen from inside before the installation, and here is the geography that we were working in. You see all the Rhone river going to the Lehrmann's Lake and then going blah, 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 to the sea. And deeper, blacker, all the mountains. This is the great infrastructure, and this is, I focus a little on that. It's very interesting for us as architects to interact with huge geographies and always thinking that geography is not enough, or it's never big enough for us to think. We are always trying to think big in terms of scale, in terms of desert, in terms of how to interact with clouds and geography and methodology. And when we have to create something into an art gallery, we do it with all the mountains, with the Alps that are around. A little explanation as an axonometric drawing. Water was coming from the derrick here, pumping into the little river here. We have a citern and water system and water fun, like French funny architects would have done in the inside. Here is an image of the derrick once built and the inside of the gallery. The exhibition was about art, territory, landscape and politics, around, and we had this strong infrastructure of water that is like discussing from the building to the mountains all around, showing the importance of the territory and how important the land use is in the Alps. Here a bit more images of the inside. A water basin as we love them. So this is a little bit the way that we do architecture, to say. And last project that is also an art, somehow an art installation that goes in a Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art of Geneva, which is a very polluted building. We had, as architects, the opportunity to participate to an exhibition about biosphere and the living sphere that are around us. So everything that is alive, may it be a bacteria, a mushroom, or algae all around. So we had been invited to participate in that exhibition, and we had at the very beginning this crazy desire to understand how chlorophyll can turn pollution, which is in that case carbon dioxide and water,